All right, man. We are here.
What
We're
up?
live on, I think I got it on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I took out Twitter because nobody watches this shit on Twitter.
What is Twitter anymore? It doesn't even exist. It's just
Right.
X now, right?
We are joined for another episode of Vision Quest podcast with an awesome guest. This guy has always been exciting to watch, man. I mean, there's a reason why you have the nickname you do, the highlight reel, the human highlight reel.
Yes,
Reece
sir.
Humphrey. Give it up for him. Appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
come on.
Appreciate you coming on. My
Reece.
camera's going all crazy because it's all motion censored, but I appreciate you joining us, man. It's been kind of a juggle, right? I mean, kind of getting this thing going with the holidays and things like that.
Right.
But so we want to talk to you. You are also a person that has always interested us as far as, you know, what your story was behind wrestling, the things that you've been through, all just everything. I mean, I've watched some matches with guys from Iowa that burned me up that you beat, you know, just because I was an Iowa fan for so long, right? And then
Yeah.
as an adult, I grew up and I was like, you know, all wrestling's pretty good, you know. You just
Yeah, right.
you just gotta watch one.
I definitely
So
took some losses to the Iowa boys as well. So
yeah,
yeah.
It's right. It's right. Everybody's got something to offer. So when we talk about everything, I was kind of talking to you about this in the beginning. We talk about everything from the start to the end. So, you know, we kind of dig into, you know, just some of the weirder things that maybe someone doesn't ask. But I'm going to start off with, because I have a guy that's around here that knows you well. His name is Zach Pearson. I wouldn't say he knows you well, but he's from Indiana, which is where you're from.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised. So where are you from in Indiana?
From Indianapolis, I went to a high school called Lawrence North.
Okay.
And yeah, we were very good. Zero recruiting. Just my dad kind of took the two middle schools and coached them up a little bit. My brother went to the one middle school, and then we moved. So I went to the other one. Those two feed into the high school, Lawrence North, and we ended up winning 2 state titles. We had 7 guys ranked number 1 in the state at one point, and bummer, I was the only one to win. So that was we had 6 losses in the semifinals. We went 1 for 7. And so that was crazy, but we had a very good team, and we won the dual state tournament my junior year. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Was that like right off the bat, right when your dad was that right when he started coaching, or had he been coaching there for a while?
No, he just got there. He was just helping. We had a head coach, and he just helped. And our head coach was awesome. His name was Brett Krausor, and he was a guy with no ego. He knew that my dad had better technique than him, so he ran the team and ran the practices. When it was technique time, my dad would step in, teach the technique, and he would help me and the guys around me probably the most. And then some other guys, even the guys who weren't as good, they had some really good fundamentals because of my dad's basic technique. And I've said that he's the guy who created the rules of wrestling: head up, back straight, hips in, and pressuring your opponent. That really stems from my dad, and then him coaching Brandon Slay and the Schultz brothers and all those guys at Foxcatcher along the way. It kind of trickled down, and then everybody knows to keep your head up and back straight and hips in. It's like a staple of it. And so when I say that, people are like, there's no way. Like, imagine being the guy that said that you created head up. And I'm
made that bar,
he's that old. he's that guy.
So and a lot of people may not know this. You don't just come from any average dude that was around the sport of wrestling. Your dad is pretty decorated. And again, I don't not everybody knows. So let's kind of go. Your dad he was an Olympian, correct?
He was a 4-time world team member, never an Olympian. So
okay.
It's the Humphrey curse. We can't get it done. So just a little background on me. I was on the team in 2011, 2013, lost 2 clinches to lose London, and beat that guy in 11 and 13. He went on to win the bronze, Coleman Scott. And then, so no London. And then I made the team in 2015, right before Rio, and then they took my weight out. So we went from 7 weight classes to 6, and they didn't change the weights. They just took out 60 kilos, and I was like, this will be great. I'll be able to wrestle bigger guys. And then I started wrestling the bigger guys. I was like, come on, man, where's my weight? But my dad, so we have a little curse going around us. But my dad was the 2-time Olympic head coach, once for Canada in '84. And this is kind of different, and I just found this out recently, but he wasn't the USA wrestling coach. So like Zadok is the coach, and then now Zadok will be the Olympic head coach. They would always bring somebody in, and that guy would coach the Olympics, and there would still be a Team USA coach. So it's different than I had actually viewed it in the past, but he coached the Olympic team in Canada in '84 and then the Olympic team in '88, and had one of the best Olympics for Canada, and then probably the best Olympics ever for Team USA. They won.
Yeah. And so again, you didn't just come up in some average house when it comes to wrestling, man. I mean, you had it put to you. So
but I started in 6th grade, so there was no fill my shoes. My dad was in sales. I didn't know that he was a wrestler, not like that, not on that level, which is probably the greatest gift he ever gave me, because it's so hard to do wrestling for somebody else, and if you're always constantly trying to fill those shoes, and later I figured it out, obviously, but when he first came to the first practice I ever was at, I was like, Dad, you're good at push-ups, but what are you going to do coaching here? You know, I had no idea. Like, so totally Jedi mind tricked me into thinking he was a normal dude. But I'm sure he was teaching me head up, back straight, hips in, while I was fist fighting my brother, you know?
That's awesome. So, and I've seen that a lot. You know, we talk to some guys that are parents not now, and they do the same thing. They're like, I'm not pushing him to do this. And I think you find that a lot of whether it's just like a higher level athlete parent in general, because they understand the pressure, they get how intense it can be, and it's tough. I mean, you're talking about wrestling on top of that. I mean, it's not easy. You're talking about filling shoes. Man, I couldn't imagine if I knew about that right away, you know, coming up and like, oh man, you know, everybody talking to you or something. But as you came up in the household, where you must have played other sports, and I take it, right? So you're soccer, baseball, things like that. What was the first sport?
Very young. Gymnastics when I was young.
Okay.
And that's probably where all the flips and all that stems from. And then I played hockey for almost 10 years. Yeah. We were in
kidding
league. Yeah. So I was the smallest guy on the ice, but we played in very, very competitive leagues. We played in the Chicago League, and we played in the Michigan League. And then my last year, we played in the AAA Canadian League. I went from scoring 63 goals my second to last season to scoring 3. So everybody hit puberty before me, and they were all going from, 100 pounds to they were like 180, 200. And I'm like 55 pounds out there. Like it became a different game. So it was time to move on to a weight class sport.
For sure. So that's interesting. So again, because of your dad's, things that he had done in the past and where he'd been, was there instillment of that give it all or don't give it at all kind of attitude? Was it just kind of
off? He was so hands off on motivation, like on pushing me like that. And so I think that was just in me. It's not really in my brother. And so you got to just let your kids be who they are. Yeah. And, he taught my brother all the technique and all that. But my brother, he wasn't quite the go-getter, like trying to push himself. I was waking up. If I woke up in the middle of the night, I would do 100 push-ups. Like, no one's telling me to do that. It's just, it was in me. Right. I wanted to always constantly better myself physically. My brother, a little more cerebral and try and better himself in that sense. And so everybody gets pushed different ways. And so you kind of just let your kids be who they want to be, and then just kind of guide them and help them. And that's how I've been treating my kids. My son wants to wrestle, and Jersey youth wrestling is very, very tough. It's different than Indiana. I was undefeated right away. No one had to tell me anything. I had it. And probably because I had an older brother who beat me up every single day, and we literally fist fought every day. And then I'd cry, and then my dad would come in, teach me some technique. I'd be like, I'll get him tomorrow. And so without that presence, it's a little bit different. And Jersey wrestling is really tough, but we're in there scrapping. My son was an All American in freestyling and folk style, but
nice.
Always trying to get better. And he's got a bright future, but he's still got his hands full all the time.
So when you started out in, hockey was a long time sport of yours, and I would assume you tried some other sports on the side as well. But when you first kind of got your taste of even in hockey, just kind of like winning, was there an adrenaline rush for you, especially because I scored goals? I played soccer. Yeah. Every time I scored, that was a rush, right? Just knowing that you just completed, you just scored and then you got more coming. What was that like for you, especially as, no pressure, but you're driving yourself? And it's interesting to hear that you say you're doing 100 push-ups in the middle of the night, just on your own. So you must have been surrounded with some pretty good guys as far as just guys your age, athletes your age. Were a lot of those guys did they stick with hockey and kind of take it further after you left, and pros or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about hockey. Kind of lost touch with those guys when I moved into to wrestling. I'm sure some of them. I mean, it was a very, very competitive league. We were
Yeah.
definitely the best team in Indiana. They actually
Wow.
didn't let us play in the state tournament our last couple of years. They said, "You guys, if you played, we don't
Too
play."
bad.
We're like, "All right." So we did that the one year we played. We beat everybody by 12 goals, and then they're like, we let them have their thing. So
Yeah.
we had some very, very good guys on the team, but I'm not really sure how far they made it. I'm
Sure.
sure some guys played in college, but we were pretty young. You know, I stopped
Yeah.
in 7th, 8th grade. And so
Okay.
there's still a
Okay.
big gap from there to no matter how good you were.
Right.
Yeah, I bet
Right.
some of them did pretty well.
Okay. So you got into wrestling, you said about 6th grade, and there was no pressure. There was nothing to be expected, and you're just saying that you kind of had your way with it when you first started. Where were you? Did you stick in Indiana? Did your dad take you to national tournaments and things like that right away? Or was he just kind of seeing how much you liked it first and then it grew into that? Explain kind of the dynamic of how wrestling really kind of creeped in.
Yeah, so I was undefeated in the middle school season. Nothing crazy, you know. I don't
Yeah.
really remember how tough the competition was,
Yeah.
but I wanted more. You know, I wanted to see what was out there, and we always were freestyle guys, so we were always wrestling through the summer, and that's where I got probably the best competition because we started to go to the national tournaments. I would win the freestyle state tournament, win Greco, and then I remember the first eye opener. I went to the schoolboy duels, and there wasn't that many national tournaments back then.
Yeah.
There's so many different tough competitions at this day, but
Yeah.
I remember going to the schoolboy duels, and I went 2-12. There was no 2 and out. I went 2-12 after being pretty much undefeated up to that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're crying under the bleachers after every single one. Like, God dang, I got to wrestle again. I'm fucking lost 20 times already. And so that was the big eye opener of that. There is another level for me, and it happened in a tidal wave. And so
Yeah.
it was humbling, but also really exciting that
Yeah.
there is another level out there, and I have to get a lot better, and I got to work. And it didn't crush me. It crushed me that day, of course,
Yeah.
but it didn't crush me. My dad's such a good motivator in those moments. Like, well, we got to get better. This is what we got to do. Here's a couple things you can work on. Here's what you did well,
Yeah.
and then I got a new motivation for the sport, and I got excited for that tournament the next year. I ended up going like 13-3 the next year, and so I made a big jump. But yeah, those experiences are really important.
Totally. I couldn't agree more. I think watching just, my son coming up and not, I wrestled when I was younger, but I was not at a level that even he's at 15. I was that chubby kid who played, I was strong in the legs. I was fat in the upper body. So I was ready to roll down a soccer field. I was not ready to roll on a wrestling mat,
Yeah.
but just kind of seeing the progression that these kids, especially like you were talking about, these guys have so many events now, so many things that they can go to. And I think I've probably said it 1,000 times. When I was younger, there was one tournament I knew about. It was in Iowa. My brother and those guys all traveled down to it. I think it was freestyle too. I don't even think it was folk style. And it was crazy. It was one of the, it just all of a sudden now once my sons were in it, was like there's all these tournaments everywhere,
Hmm.
New Way, things like that. So as you started, you had the rough weekend and whatnot, but what solidified, because you're having success. So what solidified the thing for you to stay into wrestling after something? I wouldn't say it's devastating, but you're like, holy crap, I had to work more. Some kids would be like, I'm done.
It
Like,
was so easy for me because there was so much success all the time. There was one
yeah,
day that I
yeah,
could have chalked it up to a bad tournament, but
sure.
my dad didn't let me do that. It
Yeah.
wasn't. I didn't feel good that day.
Such
It
an
was
advantage.
you
Yeah.
got to beat because these kids are better than you. We got
Yeah.
to get better, and
Yep.
so it was easy to stay into it because everybody loves getting their hand raised, you know. And so
Right.
my son wanted to. He's a great flipper on the trampoline. He could do a quad back. He's done a quint back, so 1 bounce, 5 flips. He's done that. Yeah, I could show you the video. Uh, and so, yeah, it's pretty insane how athletic he is there, but he's still trying to figure out the feel of wrestling, on where to go and how to. He
Yeah.
turns the wrong way sometimes, so he doesn't quite have it just naturally. So, but he listens well and he works really hard. But yeah, it was easy for me to stay in it because I was having success all the time. I was the
Yeah.
man around my middle school, at least in sport. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't have to keep trying to come back. I wanted to.
You wanted to. So as you're getting older, you're getting into the high school days, because I mean, like you said, middle school is middle school. There's not a whole lot to kind of put a hat on. I mean, there might be a tournament that you kind of probably took pride in or something like that back in the day. But as you go into high school, kind of getting out of middle school, how much did you weigh your freshman year?
So yeah, it was a close call for me. So I was 70, 75, 80 as an eighth grader, which my son is 100 pounds right now, and he's in
Yeah.
seventh grade. So big difference from where I was. I was the smallest kid. I was the hairiest kid. It was an uphill battle for your boy. But in that
Yeah.
summer, I got really focused because I knew the weight class was 103 back then, and I ended up weighing 104. But so I gained 24 pounds, and then we had a
Yeah.
state champ on our team in high school. He cut probably 15 pounds to make 103 his senior year, and I lost to him in double overtime 4 times to
Oh,
make the team. So I'm JV, but I ended up having to beat my best friend off the team at 112. So I was
right.
giving up a ton of weight there too. I qualified for the state tournament, but I had Angel Escobedo first round
Oh, yeah.
and ended up losing that. But then I won 3 state titles after that, and the rest is history.
Rest is history. So as you're climbing through high school, because I think it's always interesting to find out, like, who was your toughest opponent and who was the one guy that you ran into that always had your number. Some guys usually have that, especially in high school. A lot of guys have it in college. Who was Angel was the only one that had your number, or was there another guy that was always kind of behind you, nipping at
Yeah,
your
so
heels?
yeah, Angel was just a one match, but he
Yeah.
was undefeated in high school. He was the superstar. I had my eyes set on him. Even though I was giving up weight, I believed I could beat him.
Yeah.
And then he kind of beat me up. So there was like once again levels. But the real guy that I literally never beat was a kid named Mac Ryder in college. Uh,
Okay.
I've been majored 5 times in my life. Mac Ryder was 4 of them.
Oh shit.
He teched me, pinned me, majored me, and something else. Like, God dang, this dude, I can't do anything to him.
What? Holy
Yes,
shit.
matchups are a real thing, but man, this dude had my number, and every
Yeah.
time I thought I was going to beat him, every single time, and
That's awesome.
I just it'd be close, and then it would just all crash. And yeah, he taught me a lot.
You ever run into him after college?
Oh yeah, he's my best friend.
Nice.
Yeah, no,
Nice. Isn't that just
he,
that's why I
he,
love this sport so much, man. Like
uh-huh.
it brings a lot of people together. Even sometimes people that probably didn't like each other at some point, they come together, they just start
Yeah,
talking about
right.
wrestling.
Yeah, it's tough when you're battling against somebody. You can.
Yeah.
I never hated my opponent. Some guys have to
Sure.
hate him to beat him, but this dude, he knows he has my number. And he's big. He's a little out of shape now, but he fucking knows he's got
You
me.
know,
He knows he's got me. So he always wants to come up to me and talk to me, and I love it, man. I have no hard feelings at all. But
yeah, right.
he definitely knows he's got my number, so he wants to be extra friendly, just so he'd be
That's
like,
cool.
yeah, that's Reece. Yeah, I got him.
That's cool. This championship match is not a problem.
Yeah,
I got this.
not even close.
So as you're kind of going through high school, were you already like freshman year, were you thinking I want to go to college and wrestle? This is what I want to do in school.
Yeah,
It was
always.
already in there, huh?
Yeah, always. I remember in 6th grade, I was in a home ec class. I drew 2004 Olympic Games with Humphrey on the back. And so, yeah, it was always a goal of mine to be definitely wrestling
Okay.
in college. And obviously, I had no idea how much better I had to get. I just thought that I had won some matches on the middle school scene.
Yeah.
Thought I was going to be that guy. But
Yeah.
it
Well,
turns
shit.
out I forgot about the curse that the Humphreys can't make it there. So,
It's kind of interesting, and watching your style of wrestling it was always fun because you knew, I mean, you knew what you were doing, and I think a lot of, obviously, like I said, you had the knowledge behind it, the basics knowledge, just in the good basics knowledge, and I think a lot of people miss the base of what is needed to be able to be just a good wrestler, good sound, wrestler with basic technique.
yeah.
I mean, you can win championships, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's all
so
we talk about. So I
yeah,
coach at the NJRTC, which is out of Princeton, and these
yeah,
guys are the smartest, most intelligent athletes I've ever been around. And so I
yeah,
have to talk to them a little bit differently. But
yeah,
for them and for really everybody, it's breaking it down to making things sound really simple. And
yeah,
so Einstein was a guy that's associated with Princeton, and
yep,
he could make the theory of relativity sound simple. That's
right,
what a good coach should be able to do. Make it make sense to somebody. A coach that teaches a lot of moves and puts your hands in these specific places, it's so hard to comprehend when you're out there. If you
yeah,
give them concepts on staying athletic, staying balanced, not fading off to the side because you're not as powerful there. You want to be
yeah,
in positions that you're athletic and can do explosive things. You can relate it to a guy like Nate Jackson, who's 6'3",
yeah,
down to a guy who I used to coach, Tyler Graff, or Matt Kolodzik, who these guys are
yep,
5'5", 5'3", And so they all have different strengths and different weaknesses. And if you give them the philosophy of balance and athleticism and a little bit of pressure and the release of pressure, all these things make you so much better. And then it always goes back to the golden rules of wrestling: head up, back straight, hips in.
There it is again. There it is again. And
It's
that's so cool to be able to have that in a room, especially at an RTC, to be able to, and these guys. I mean, yeah. So that's kind of the part for me is that I kind of want to dig into a little bit here is kind of going through high school is looking into colleges, right? So you're getting in sophomore, junior year, you're getting recruited. How soon was that? Right after your sophomore year, were you getting those phone calls, letters, whatnot?
Mm-hmm.
However it was back then. I mean,
phone calls and letters. I remember talking for hours down there, like, God, I can't get away from this. And I didn't have a smartphone back then. I'm pretty old. So I just
corded phone you're wrapped around in the kitchen.
I'm stuck there. I'm twirling the thing around, like, I gotta go. Yes.
Yeah, right.
Shut up. And that's basically what it came down to. I said, my dad. So Russ Hellickson was the coach at Ohio State, and he told my dad that he could come be on the staff or at least coach the club there.
Yeah.
And so that was the deciding factor for me. My dad was like, I'm going to go do this, but you definitely don't have to. Yeah. And the final three were Ohio State, Michigan, which is pretty crazy, and then Oklahoma. But Oklahoma sent a letter and didn't make those calls, and the letter got there by the time that
you committed.
I had already committed because I took a visit to OU and I really liked it. I liked the guys. We got in a fist fight, which I thought was cool at the time.
Cool. That's pretty sweet.
It was pretty cool for a recruiting visit. Everybody got together. I'm like, man, these are my kind of people. And yeah, man, when OU would have ended up being a really good place for me, but I ended up going to Ohio State. But yeah, OU, it would have been Hayes Winkle, then me, then Tion Ware. And then Tion would have graduated, and I could have moved to 41. When Ohio State, I kind of got stuck at 133 because we had janitors. And even if I could have beat Jay, which who knows, it made no sense because Jay would have had Lance Palmer ahead of him. So we had the perfect lineup, but it wasn't perfect for me. I was stuck at 33. So I said, never again. I'll never be 33 again. And then they moved to freestyle night before weigh-ins. I made it for like the next 10 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I hate myself.
So when you're kind of going through the recruitment process, your dad got the offer, and once you get into college and just kind of facing it, what was that like? Because you talked about levels and just from middle school to high school and things like that. Did you get a big smack in the face going into the college room?
Not so much.
Okay.
I expected it to be very hard, but we were 11th in the Big Ten out of 11 when I signed. I just knew that we had Jaggers and TJ Enright and some really good guys right around me that I knew that my dad could coach, and I had these really great partners. We were going to be great. And then Russ left or got fired as Tom Ryan came in, and Tom brought a whole new staff, and then we just jumped levels. But we jumped levels pretty immediately, but it was all Russ's recruits. Lance Palmer was a Russ Ellerson recruit, me and Jay, and then Tom Ryan brought over Mike Basillo, and those guys, 4 guys, really led the team to a national runner-up finish. And we were 50th at the national, scoring like 1 point, and then we got 8th, 2nd, something else up in the top 10. So, it was a needed change, but it was also really good timing for Tom to come in.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested in where did you guys go for tournaments and things like that back then? Because like you see now where, like Iowa goes to the Midlands and then some guys go down to the Southern Scuffle. What did you guys have that was a constant?
Yeah, we were at the Southern Scuffle and we would always do Vegas.
Okay.
Vegas, the only tournament I've ever won in college. And which is crazy. I won a couple like Michigan State Opens, but we only really wrestled in the Scuffle. And I don't even know if we did that for very long. I think they stopped going to any Christmas tournament. So we'd wrestle in Vegas, the Big Tens, and the Nationals. And so,
kept it simple.
Yeah, and I had to beat Kyle Dake to win that. So, I mean,
it kept it simple.
Yeah, right. It was just every college tournament was a grind. And now there's a couple more in there, but still not very many. You're winning tournaments, you got a chance to win the Nationals.
Yeah. So I noticed something, this is just me. Maybe it's not how you feel about it, but I think freestyle seemed to be your favorite.
Yeah, of course.
Dude, just watching you compete in freestyle is insane because you can let it fly, right? I mean, there's certain things you get in trouble with in folk style that you're not going to get in freestyle. So watching you just let it go, that's when I really started paying attention once I saw you competing in freestyle. Because I was like, dude, this guy's just letting it rip. Like a lot of these guys are trying to stay in a pocket and trying to wrestle inside of whatever their comfort zone is.
Mm-hmm.
You would leave your comfort zone so many times when you wrestled and successful. Sometimes it didn't work, but it's not like you lost or anything. Where did you get that portion from? I mean, that's confidence, right? I mean, that's not just a dad
there's
thing.
A lot of confidence. And what people don't understand is I did a lot of upper body stuff with duck unders and lateral drops and step arounds. But I drilled that stuff. And people neglect upper body. And so if you can drill it and get confident in there, it was all really high risk or high reward, low risk. People think that upper body is such a high risk, high reward, but it was low risk for me because I always knew how to bail out of it. And I could send it. And if I had it to the breaking point, if I got past that, I'd get it. And if I didn't, I'd back out of it. And so I could constantly threaten those things. I could challenge people and get them really tired in positions that they weren't used to. All because I drilled that stuff and nobody does it. And I don't really know why. And we drill it all the time at the NJRTC out of Princeton. And it's really important stuff because it's half of the body is up there.
It is.
Literally half of my attacks are upper body and the other half are down low. And if you can threaten both, you can be more dangerous and much more dynamic. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hell yeah. So what was the when you took your first trip to Ohio State, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah. So I took a couple trips out there. So I had 50-yard line tickets from my sophomore year to my senior year of high school.
Damn.
At the Horseshoe. So that was a selling point as well. So whenever I wanted, it was always a cool thing. And I went to high school with two really good basketball players, Greg Oden, who got number one in the NBA over Kevin Durant, and then was plagued with injuries, so it didn't work out. And then Mike Conley, who is, I believe, still in the league, one of the most highest paid athletes. He's a point guard, and he was drafted number 4. So two of the best guys, and then they went to Ohio State too. So every time we sat 50-yard line, they were there, which was an in with the cool kids. You know? So
that's right.
Me and my two high school buddies went to all those Ohio State Michigan games. It was great rivalry games, right 50-yard line, third row. And then we'd hang out with my boys, and it would be a blast always. And so I knew that Ohio State was going to be a really good time. Those ended up going to Ohio State as well, those two basketball guys. And so it was always a really cool thing, and it all worked out.
That's awesome. I mean, you're to be able to be at a Big Ten school, number one, because like just watching the kids now that, I mean, the dual team that I had, all these kids now are starting to graduate, you know, and some of them are just becoming seniors, and they're all really successful. And seeing some of these guys signing to Big Ten schools and Big 12 schools is really exciting. To me, at some point, though, was there ever, and you can have a love for the sport, and I had a love for soccer, don't get me wrong. You can have a love for a sport. I always ask everybody, even as you get into college, was there ever a point in college where you're like, maybe I just need to call it. Maybe this is, I love it. I love the sport, but man, it's kicking the shit out of me. And I don't know if I'm going to be as successful as I want to. Was that ever on your brain?
All the time. Cutting too much weight, taking a loss. You know, we had those 4 really good guys and maybe one other good guy. If any of us lost, we'd lose a duel. So it was so much pressure all the time. I was miserable cutting weight. I had no friends, you know, just, it was tough during the season. So it felt like a lose-lose. Like I have to win and I should win by more, or I would lose and the whole team would be let down. And so and you're cutting weight, you're not eating. It was miserable during the whole year. I'm like, why am I doing this? But I do love the sport. And there's a big part of grinding through those really miserable times that when you step out of it, you're like, man, it's really cool to be all in for something. Have it mean that much. But I say, if you don't want to quit wrestling at some point, you're not doing it hard enough.
Sure.
It's just such a grueling sport, and losing out there one-on-one, there's nobody to blame but yourself. It's really hard for an 18-year-old, even a 25-year-old to handle, let alone a 15-year-old. And so it's just a really difficult thing. And so if you don't want to quit at some point, you're probably not giving it your all. And so it's totally part of the process, and just stay in there.
Yeah. So what are some of the more memorable matches that you remember from college, or even tournaments?
So beating Kyle Dake was a really funny match for me because it was the quarterfinals. It was in Vegas. My whole family was there. None of them showed up. Just my wife was the only one to make it. Actually, she didn't make it. My dad was the only one. My dad was the only one that made it. Everybody else was hungover, slept in. And I go, it's cool, guys. You didn't miss much. I beat a freshman in overtime.
Yeah, that was it.
It ends up being
the
biggest win of all time.
Yes.
I didn't wrestle very well, you know.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You know, you wrestled one of the best guys ever in the sport and just happened to beat him. Yeah.
He was just some little blonde hair boy back then. Boy, could he scrap though.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So then, I mean, NCAA finals is a match that I constantly think about. Not so much anymore. I thought about it pretty much every day until I won the US Open. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, you just realizing that it's over and you didn't get that goal done and you won't forever. And so I think about it, you know, they do the NCAA. So like, all Americans stand up. And I always stand up and I know what's coming. I go, and national champions, stay standing. And I'm like, yeah. And so
right on.
You know,
so
I torture ourselves a little bit, but yeah, there's a couple matches that still stand out.
I kind of wonder. You're from Indiana.
Mm.
You are very New Jersey.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that. Yeah, man. Like, I mean, just the way. Yes. You're very New Jersey. My wife, it's kind of funny because my wife she's Sicilian, but her family's from up north. But it's just kind of funny to see you fit in. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's like like your environment. What got you there? What took you to New Jersey?
So Joe Dubuque, who's the head coach now at Princeton, he's the one who called me. He saw one of my stupid videos. I was teaching technique or throwing some kids around or doing something, and he saw it and he called me. And I used to get these calls every once in a while from RTCs that would want to bring me out, but the offers weren't anything crazy.
Yeah.
And so my offer kept getting pushed up to what I actually would want to move because I was living out in California. My brother was my assistant coaching for Titan Mercury Youth. And I was just doing what I wanted to do because college coaching really didn't appeal to me. There's so much work that's not wrestling. And I just love wrestling and want to do wrestling and want to be able to do all the side missions that I'm trying to chase after. And you need a little bit more time than being a head coach or an assistant coach even. And so all that pencil pushing is not for me. And so I just want to coach wrestling and travel the world. And this was a really good opportunity.
Yeah.
And I hung up the phone. I'm like, yeah, it's just another one of those RTC jobs. And my wife started crying. I said, Princeton, New Jersey. And she started crying. I'm like, what's going on? She goes, you got to go look. You're not going to look at Princeton, New Jersey. And she really didn't like California. And so I'm like, I'll take the visit. I'll take the visit. And so I took the visit and flew out to Jersey. And man, what a town. Everybody thinks dirty New Jersey, but no way, bro. It's the Garden State. It's beautiful in Princeton, and where I live in Pennington, we're an hour from the city. We're 40 minutes from Philly. We're an hour from the beach. It's like, it's a dream. I love
Can't go wrong.
Jersey is home for me and my family. And so, grew up in Indiana, went to Ohio State.
That's awesome,
a little bit, but Jersey's home.
Mm-hmm. That's and again, like I said, you fit in. Like I can't think of another person that's from the Midwest,
right,
that can just hop on out to Jersey and be Jersey, right?
Yeah.
But you're a character, and that's always been kind of how you were. Even watching your wrestling too, like the flip that I know pissed Dan Dennis off after you beat him. He's like, I hate that crowd. I was like, dude, he's excited, man. And he could do a flip, like for real.
Yeah. Well, story about that. So it wasn't the flip. I did a break dance.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So I did a break dance. I did it after I won my first state title. It all went great. I thought, this is cool. I'm going to do it for winning the world team trials.
Yeah.
I beat Dan. I'm one of the guys Dan could never beat. He would be beating me and I'd headlock him. Like I just had his number for whatever reason. As awesome as he was just a guy that I had his number. But I beat him and I did the break dance, but the coaches had both gotten out of their chairs. And so as I'm spinning around, I'm looking for my dad and Roselli, but I can't see them. One, I'm spinning real fast, and two, they're gone. They're out of the chairs. So I just like, fuck it, I'm pointing at one of these chairs. I pointed at the Brands brothers' chairs.
Oh,
just bam! Oh, just like this. And then I realized Tom and Terry were standing behind it. I go, no. And so you can kind of see in the video, I get up like kind of shamefully.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not what I was going for. So that's probably why he doesn't like that so much.
Yeah. Those guys don't like it in general because they lost. That's about it. It's sour taste in your mouth.
But yeah, that made it a little bit worse.
So
sorry, Dan. Dan and I are we work together a little bit because he's the Hawkeye RTC coach. And so when we go overseas, everything's always confusing. Dan and I are two of the guys that go scout stuff and figure stuff out. He shares what he learned on his trip. I try and help him, and it makes it a lot more simple. So it's good to have that relationship.
Did you ever have any overseas experience as in college or around, in your school days? Where did you go?
I've been, I don't know, 30, 40 countries at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So even from my U23 days where I
Yeah.
met guys like Keith Gavin, Terrell Delagnev, JD Bergman. It's one of my first interactions with those guys.
Okay.
Greece, Italy for those trips, and then the Team USA trips.
Yeah.
They're countless. Belarus, Ukraine,
Nice.
Russia,
Okay.
numerous times, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan. I mean, everywhere.
You're
Yeah.
traveled. You're
Cuba,
traveled.
Cuba. Yeah. Some of the better trips with Cuba has always been a good time.
You got a couple stamps in your passport, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, so when you kind of got done with with college, going into the RTC, what was your thought process kind of as going into an RTC? I mean, you're not necessarily heading up a college program, but you're still the coach, you're still the dude, right? So you
Yeah.
got to have some type of a program. How long did that take you to put something like that together? Because I know just taking the test with Say Sport to get my USA Wrestling coaching card's not easy, So
Yeah.
I can't imagine the what you had to put together. Was that something you're like, all right, you called those guys back, you're like, yeah, I'll do this. Do you just start working on a game plan? Or do you is that something that sits in your head just because you
Kind of
come
like this podcast, man. I just wing it.
just
I was
winging it,
just winging it back
letting it
then.
rip?
Now I'm a lot more organized. These Princeton guys, the athletes and the coaches, they're really good mentors. And so they taught me a lot about being more organized and getting everything scheduled and laid out. And I'm actually a much better coach because of it. But in the beginning, for a long time, I would basically train alongside my guys and wing it, and it just randomly worked out really well. We were the Bad News Bears, man. For a little bit, it was Nate Jackson and I. We were the Nate Jackson RTC, the NJRTC, for a little bit, and then we brought on Pat Downey straight from the streets, basically.
Yeah,
paid him next to nothing in the beginning, and then he made the world team. Tyler Graff was a guy who was
the Badger.
He had left a couple programs because he wasn't happy with that. And then so he found a spot with us and boom, made the world team. So we had two guys on the world team in my second year as a freestyle coach. And I won Coach of the Year, which caught some eyes, but still very difficult to get some guys to train in Princeton. And so now we're just slowly building, but I think our reputation is that we are going to get the most out of these guys. We got a guy named Quincy Monday right now who has really stepped on the scene in a brand new way. He's jumped levels just with really basic stuff that is really helping him. And he's very hard worker, super cerebral. He listens very well. Sometimes he looks at me dead in the eyes and I get a little intimidated. He's gonna double leg me or something, but such a great guy to be around. All these guys are really, really good to be around. Nate Jackson, I really think could be the Olympian.
You guys all just killed it at this last round.
We got Marsteller who beat JB last year. And so we have a very, very good team right now. And we have some good recruits looking to fill the spot for the guys that step out of the scene in 2024. So things are looking up for the NJRTC. And I really just enjoy what I do. Travel the world and teach wrestling with really good people.
It's awesome. So that's the RTC. Let's talk about this podcast a little bit you got going on, man.
Here we are.
Let's talk. No genre. Yeah, look at this.
We got the whole setup. We got
the same thing.
We're live. So we're having a blast with it. Me and my former athlete, CJ Barucki, we do a podcast, and it's no genre, so it's anything that's straight off the top of the dome. It's going to be wrestling content, MMA, fighting stuff, music a lot. We do a lot of music on the podcast.
Yes, you do.
Frankie Edgar on the other day, and he was rapping. We've had some really cool. We had a brain surgeon on. Call it out at youtube.com/highlight-Humphrey, or you can find us on Instagram at @no-genre__, and then make up a couple other characters. You'll find it.
All that other stuff in there. Yeah, we'll sprinkle it. And then I'll put some of that stuff in because this will be audio form, and I'll put links to all that too. For you guys out there. So what kind of you're a fly by the seat of your pants kind of guy. What type of things are coming up in the future for the NJRTC? I mean, you guys got a pretty good class around by you already. Where do you guys feed from?
What'd you say?
Where do you guys feed from? Like what athletes from, because a lot of the RTC guys aren't just Princeton, are they?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. It's anybody that we can get, but we're looking at guys who are very explosive, and then let me teach you how to do the hand fighting, the positional stuff. Would be the number one guys that we're going for. But anybody that wins and wants to come over here, come get it. because I really believe that I can help any style of athlete, and so I attract mostly my friends. Are going to be the first people that I reach out to, but
Yeah.
I'm making new friends all the time when we recruit anybody. They come over and they see the vibe that we have. We really do. It's not a show. We have a blast in the room every single day. We're cracking jokes, and it's really, really fun place to be. And wrestling's such a grind. You got to have that. And so we're going to Croatia January 6th, and then we're going to Nice, France right after that. Nate Jackson and I are going on a double tour. Chance and Quincy are just doing Croatia, and then Kolodzik and Yaya Thomas are going to do France, and Nate's going to do both. And so we'll be gone for a good 15 days overseas, which will be really exciting. But we got some really exciting stuff coming up with No Genre. We have a new EP that's probably going to drop at the end of January. We did the music video in Times Square. It's called Anybody Want to Dance. So we were dancing out there. We got the story is really cool. So we're doing a promotional video for Princeton Wrestling as well. We did a song. They asked us to do a song for the home duels, so we cranked that out in about a week. And now we did a music video for that at 8 a.m. Went to the city, New York City, to do a podcast with a financial company, which ended up being a blast. And then I was supposed to meet with somebody to do the adult wrestling. We're fundraising a little bit for the adult wrestling classes that we're doing, and they canceled. So we hit up our media team and said, hey, you want to shoot this video while we're in the city? Boom, they met us in the city. We're like, okay, so now what are we going to do? Once again, we have no plan. So,
creative juices start flowing. They just start going.
Square. Let's hit up some of those B-boys that are out there street performing. Let's put them in the aux, and we threw them $20. Like, hey, we're going to play this song. We're going to do this music video where you guys dance.
Yeah.
So we turned it on. They were like, yeah, okay. And then we turned the song on, and they were like, oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And we're break dancing. They're doing windmills. I'm break dancing. We're singing to the camera. It ended up being an awesome thing. A whole crowd surrounded us. They're all cheering. It was a really, really fun thing. So I hope the video portrays some of the fun that we were having that day. But it was fly by the seat of our pants and no genre all day, every day.
So you guys, and that's the best part, like just listen that the first song you guys put out, because it was like you guys were just having fun doing stuff. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing these videos of you guys in a studio. Like, what is going on? Sound studio. I'm not talking just like a podcast studio, sound studio. And then all of a sudden I hear the sound. I'm like, damn, these guys are actually like serious. They're good at what they're doing, man.
It's just like wrestling, man. It's exciting. It's frustrating. Yeah. It's a brand new challenge. And once the Olympic trials were over for me personally, I needed something. I needed something because
I agree.
Something to chase that's way too big of a goal that you're never going to achieve. Or at least everyone thinks that. And but the people that are around us, they believe in us and they give us a deal on everything. And so
that's awesome.
Producer charges us next to nothing. The media team charges us next to nothing. And so everybody just wants it to blow up. All our deals are when it blows up, we'll get paid this. And so I'm like, cool. And so if it does what it does, then it's cool. But man, I'm having such a blast. It's so much fun making music. It's so much fun doing the podcast, meeting people like you, bringing other people in, bringing people that I've always looked up to and really getting their backstory. And so if you guys want to check the podcast stuff out, you can find it on my YouTube channel. If you want to listen to the music, it's on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. But we're getting better and better, and just watch. Something's gonna pop off at some point. If it doesn't,
that's so cool.
That's fine too.
And that's the best part because you can tell you guys are having fun, and that makes watching it fun because you guys are living it up. I mean, just watching you guys in the last one you put out I don't care if it's content of just doing a move. You guys being the Grinch and Santa, like that's the shit. I love that stuff because I'm not that open with things, but I still have fun with that kind of stuff. Like I think it's awesome. I think it's great that you guys are also able to take something that you love and incorporate it into something else that you can enjoy and love, and it's yours. That's what it is for me too. This is mine.
Yep.
I don't answer to anybody. Nobody tells me what I can put out and what I can't put out.
Yeah.
I don't care if there's 5 people watching or 0 people watching or 500 people watching. I'm putting it out because I like talking to guys like you, just like you talking. I talk to Frank Jasper quite a bit.
Yeah.
Shoot from Vision Quest. The guy's a Chinese nutritionist, man. Like he had no idea, no clue. But that's why we do this stuff because we like talking to interesting people, spreading the word, and kind of having fun with all of it. So I appreciate, man. We've been going for almost an hour now, but you're just as busy as I am with doing stuff. And obviously with the podcast, you guys are putting all kinds of stuff together. So I'm going to get out of your hair, but I'm going to talk to you for a second just after we cut out here.
Okay.
I'm going to play some music. But again, everybody go check out No Genre Podcast. Go check out the YouTube channel they got. Check them out on Spotify. They got music out. Not only they got the podcast. I mean, you guys are blowing up. It's fun to watch. It's really
find
exciting.
the OG Wrestling Club Instagram is where you can find all our adult wrestling stuff too. We didn't really get to touch on it, but that's cool. I'm busy. I'm tired. See ya.
Yeah, right. No shit, right? Watch out for the NJRTC too, man. Those guys are coming up. You guys killed it. So we are going to get out of here, folks. We appreciate every one of you joining us. It's been a little bit, but that's kind of what happens, and things happen in life, and we just roll with it. But we're out.